Exposed, how one woman's heartwarming Thanksgiving dinner for 42 transformed her life forever. In the heart of a rundown Chicago neighborhood, Sarah hustled through another day as a waitress. The clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation filled the air at her diner. With 2 kids to care for, each hour felt like a marathon. At 35, her spirit was weary, but her determination burned bright. She often watched families gather around tables, laughter spilling over as they shared meals, something she longed for her own children, Ella and Max. The thought of Thanksgiving drove a flicker of hope in her chest. What if, she whispered to herself, envisioning a warm feast bringing together those who, like her, were fighting to survive. Ignoring her family's worried glances, who feared her idea would stretch their already thin budget, Sarah committed herself to this mission. "We can share what we have," she declared, her resolve smoldering as brightly as the November fires slowly igniting around town. The upcoming days buzzed with frantic energy as Sarah reached out to fellow neighbors and local businesses for donations. Her enthusiasm was infectious. The sounds of chatter among families she hadn't spoken to before turned to laughter as they bonded over shared struggles. Late nights turned into glorious early mornings as she found herself rejoining the joyful rhythm of connection. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the Thanksgiving date approached, excitement turned into panic. Just days before the big feast, Sarah received the devastating news: there was a shortage of food supplies. Her heart sank. The dream she endeavored to share was slipping through her fingers, threatening to deflate everything she had built. Desperation clawed at her as she stood in the kitchen, the shadows of doubt creeping back in. Was she being foolish? But deep down, love for her children and the spirit of kindness ignited her again. Sarah reached out, and through her fears, she discovered unlikely allies among neighbors. Their struggles mirrored hers, and together they stirred up kindness, forming a community that weaved strength from the very fabric of hardship. Yet, as her plans solidified, tension bubbled over with her brother, who called her intentions reckless. "Why would you put us at risk when we can barely keep our heads above water?" he burst out, and sadness washed over Sarah. They had long buried grievances that now erupted. She felt the weight of unspoken words and deep wounds between them. As the final preparations rallied her for battle, Sarah stood on a precipice. This moment would define her more than any shift at the diner. Opening the doors of her modest home to welcome 42 families with weary smiles would redefine her understanding of family and community. Laughter mingled with the smell of turkey cooking, and she welcomed warmth as if it could fill up every empty corner of her heart. Yet just as joy began to flood the room, the phone rang. In her gut, Sarah felt a storm brewing. Would this Thanksgiving be everything she wanted it to be? Or would it reveal even darker secrets that could threaten the ties they had just started to mend? Sarah's heart raced as she hesitated, staring at the screen. The number flashing was unfamiliar, but the instinct in her gut warned her something was off. A knot tightened in her stomach. She couldn't help but think of everything at stake: the laughter of children, the exquisite spread she had laboriously prepared, and the opportunity for connection she craved. Finally, she answered, the quiver in her voice betraying her resolve. "Hello? Sarah?" "It's Eric," came the voice on the other end. She recognized it immediately: her estranged father. The ghost of childhood memories flooded back, tugging at her emotions. Anger and confusion swirled inside her. "Why now? What do you want?" she managed, her tone sharper than she intended. I'm in town," he stammered. "I heard about what you're doing for Thanksgiving. I'd like to help." His words hung in the air, the disbelief palpable. Help? After years of absence and broken promises, her instincts screamed at her to reject him. Her mind raced back to childhood dinners filled with disappointment and anger, to moments that had made her swore off family altogether. "I don't need your help," she snapped, her voice rising just enough to catch a few curious glances from her brother, who was juggling dessert preparations nearby. "Sarah, wait," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. "I regret everything. I want to make it right." She lowered her gaze, feeling the weight of the call pressing down on her. Memories collided with the idea of painted smiles around her dining table filled with neighbors. Was this the moment for forgiveness? Could she allow him back into her life when everything felt precariously balanced? Behind her, the laughter from Ella and Max bubbled up as they chatted with neighbors, innocent joy wrapping around her like a warm blanket. They needed to see proof of love and acceptance. But could she call on forgiveness herself? What would it say about her to open that door? "Don't expect a welcome," she murmured, and before she fully grasped what she was saying, she added, "If you show up, it could ruin everything. Maybe that's what needed a mess to find what matters," he suggested softly, his voice softer than she remembered. Her mind buzzed furiously. Could this be a chance to heal their fractured family? Or would it only lead to more chaos? The cooking continued to simmer on the stove, while the voices in her head battled fiercely. Her reality was precarious. The tender connections she had so carefully built might tumble like a house of cards at the slightest tremor. Taking a deep breath, Sarah allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. Maybe being exposed was the very thing that could fuel transformation, not just for her but for her father as well. "Fine," she said, hesitantly. "But you need to come early and help. If you really want to be here, you have to work." "I will," he promised, awe and fear intertwining in his reply. As she hung up, Sarah felt a surge of emotions: confusion, fear, but also something like hope. Would she have the courage to face not only her past but the possibilities of a future stitched together by shared meals and laughter? Sarah took a deep breath and returned to her preparations, but the air hummed with uncertainty. How would this reunion play out? And just as the thought settled in her mind, Ella bounded in with excitement. "Mom, I'm so hungry. Are we really feeding 42 people?" That innocent question struck her deeper than she expected. Did she even know what she was inviting into their lives? As she smiled at her daughter, the reality of balance and belonging pressed down on her. When the clock chimed, the doorbell rang, echoing in the stillness of her heart. Would she find the courage to welcome her father into her redefined family? Would this Thanksgiving become a meal of healing or heartbreak? As she opened the door, the shadows of her past lurked just outside, ready to rewrite the story of her life, but what would they choose? Sarah's pulse quickened as she turned the doorknob, the wood cool against her palm. Each second felt hyper-real, the world outside fading as she held her breath, bracing herself for the sight of her father. The door swung open, revealing Eric, older, grayer, but undeniably familiar. For a moment, the air between them crackled with shared history, unspoken words hanging heavy as he stepped inside. "Hey," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hey," she replied, her mouth dry. The word felt insufficient, a thin sheath for all the feelings that raged beneath the surface. Ella's excited laugh echoed from the kitchen, breaking the silence. Sarah felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, thankful for her children's innocence, a warmth she had cultivated meticulously over the years. "We're in the middle of dinner preparations," she said, glancing back towards the chaotic kitchen. "You can help, remember?" He nodded, a slight smile flickering across his face, a momentary glimpse of the man she had once wanted as a father. But doubt tugged at her heart. Did he truly understand what this meant for her? For them? "Right," he said, shaking off the nervousness. He followed her into the kitchen, where pots clanked and flour dusted the countertops, remnants of chaotic baking. The space was a tapestry of aromas: pumpkin spices, roasted veggies, and the comforting scent of turkey slowly cooking in the oven. "Wow, look at all this!" he exclaimed, eyes widening at the spread. "It's for 42 people," Sarah reminded him with a hint of an edge. "Why so many?" he asked, a mixture of awe and disbelief in his tone. Because it's about bringing people together, she replied shortly, trying to suppress the rush of emotions that threatened to overflow. And letting them feel like they belong. He stepped closer, an uncharacteristic vulnerability showing in his stance. I want to belong too. I want to be here for you, for your kids. Her heart twisted at his words, the weight of past disappointments pressing heavily. There was a part of her that yearned to unfold into forgiveness, but another part held tightly to hurt and mistrust. As they chopped vegetables side by side, an uneasy rhythm settled between them. Each time their hands brushed against one another, memories surfaced of laughter, fights, warmth, and the way he had walked out. The tension spun into a strange comfort, revealing the smallest thread of hope. Tell me about Ella and Max, he said, trying to bridge the chasm. I'd like to know them. Ella loves painting, and Max is obsessed with dinosaurs, she answered, her voice softening slightly. The corners of his mouth turned up as he listened, genuine interest lighting his eyes. Who knew I had such talented grandchildren? He said, the pride evident in his voice. It crept into Sarah's heart, twinging with the desire for connection she had long suppressed. Suddenly, Ella burst into the kitchen, hands covered in flour, her bright laughter a contrasting color against the muted shadows of the past. Grandpa! She squealed, throwing her arms around Eric's legs. Instinctively, Sarah held her breath as she watched Eric's expression. There was a moment of complete stillness as he knelt down, eyes glistening with unanticipated joy. The floodgates of emotion opened wide, bright, and raw. Hey there, he murmured, his voice thick with unshed tears. As he embraced Ella, Sarah felt the wall between her and Eric shift ever so slightly. Could this be a new beginning? Or would the sorrow of his absence loom larger than this moment of joy? Just then, the doorbell rang again, interrupting her thoughts. Panic flared within her as she realized it was the guests, the very same community she had so carefully crafted into her family. Would they see the fractured pieces of her past, or would they witness the hope of something new being built? With her heart racing, she took a deep breath. What would they think of the man she once vowed to forget, now at the heart of her Thanksgiving gathering? As she peeled back the door, Sarah felt the weight of the moment press upon her. Could this Thanksgiving truly transform the narrative of her family, or was it merely a fragile facade waiting to shatter? With the future unfolding before her, she braced for the impact. The door swung open, revealing a swirl of faces. Friends, neighbors, and the occasional distant relative flooded her entryway, laughter threading through the air, a delightful clamor that both calmed and heightened her nerves. Happy Thanksgiving! They chorused, barely pausing as they stepped over the threshold. Sarah's kitchen was suddenly filled with warmth and chatter, the blend of excited voices overpowering her internal turmoil. Sarah! This looks amazing! Lisa, her best friend, exclaimed, glancing at the meticulous arrangement of dishes. You really outdid yourself. Thanks. It's a lot of work, but I wouldn't have it any other way, she replied, forcing a smile as she motioned for everyone to settle in. But beneath her charming facade, her pulse quickened. She caught sight of Eric, who awkwardly adjusted himself against the kitchen counter, overseeing the arrival of each guest. Her heart sank at the thought of how those close to her would perceive him. Would they see the warm grandfather she always wished she had? Or the man who left a void in her life, only to come creeping back when it suited him? Mom, can we help? Ella asked eagerly, her little hands still dusted in flour, and Max trailing behind with a small dinosaur toy. Of course. You can help with the rolls. She beamed, grateful for their excited liveliness. Just don't make a mess. With a deep breath, Sarah rejoined the group. Laughter erupted as Max relayed a story about a dinosaur that stomped its feet too loud. She felt the edges of her anxiety soften, warmed by the familiarity of her community. They were here for her, here to celebrate with her, and in that moment, the past felt distant, almost unreal, but as Eric began to talk with a couple of guests, stories of better days flickering in his tone. Sarah's heart grew heavy again. She couldn't shake the feeling that each laugh the ones he shared were a facade. This wasn't he, the man who had walked away before. This was a person trying to fit into a narrative he had once disregarded. "Hey, everything okay?" Lisa whispered, noticing Sarah's tight smile. Sarah nodded slowly, trying to mask her emotions. "It's just a lot. Do you want to do a check-in?" her friend pressed, genuine concern in her eyes. "No, let us just enjoy the evening." She couldn't let the past mar her present, not when family and love were spread out around her. More guests arrived, filling the space with energy, and soon the dining table was set. Candles flickered, casting a soft glow on the abundance of food, each dish crafted with love. The centerpiece, a cornucopia bursting with fruits and leaves, symbolized an abundance she hoped to embrace this year. As they gathered round the table, Sarah caught Eric's eye from across the room. It was an odd mixture of familiarity and distance. Somehow, he looked almost sheepish yet proud, as if he didn't entirely belong but hoped to be accepted. "Today, we give thanks for family, friends, and forgiveness," she began, her voice steady and slightly shaky. She felt all eyes on her, her heart racing. "This year, I'm thankful for new beginnings, no matter how unexpected they are." Eric's gaze softened, reflecting the same raw emotion she felt beneath the surface. Everyone raised their glasses. "To new beginnings." They echoed, and for a brief moment, it felt as if they were all on a precipice together, ready to leap into something unknown. Just then, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. A loud crash erupted from the kitchen, followed by gasps of surprise. Sarah rushed in to find Ella, covered in flour, standing over a collapsed pie. Fear rose in her throat. Would this tiny incident tear apart the fragile threads they were weaving today, or create a moment that would hold them together? As Ella looked up, eyes wide and teary, Sarah felt her heart clench. What would happen if today all fell apart? With uncertainty bearing down, Sarah braced for whatever came next. Was this Thanksgiving destined for disaster, or was it the pivotal moment they all needed to connect? Ella stood frozen, her little hands trembling as she processed the mess before her. Flour dust floated in the air, coating the kitchen in a silvery haze, a stark contrast to the warm, inviting scents that had filled the room moments ago. The beautiful pie, a centerpiece of Sarah's holiday feast, lay crumpled on the floor like a forgotten promise. "Ella." Sarah started, her voice a mix of concern and disappointment, but she caught herself, remembering that underneath the destruction was her daughter, a child who only wanted to help. Kneeling down, Sarah brushed a few strands of hair out of Ella's face and met her wide, fearful eyes. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said softly, forcing a smile. "Accidents happen." She took a deep breath, the initial surge of panic ebbing just slightly. "But I ruined it." Ella whimpered, her lips trembling, tears threatening to spill. Sarah glanced back at the gathering in the living room, laughter and chatter still floating in from the holiday crowd. The warmth of community surged within her, pushing her to respond with love instead of frustration. "We can fix this," she said, her voice steadying with resolve. "We can make another pie, right? We still have time before dinner." Ella nodded slowly, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "Can I help too?" Max chimed in, setting aside his dinosaur for a moment, his innocent eagerness hanging in the air like a beacon of light. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, grateful for the distraction. "We'll make the best pie ever together, just the three of us." With that, the pressure to maintain the perfect Thanksgiving faded under the warmth of her children's presence. As they gathered the ingredients together, Sarah felt the room around them shift. The laughter and joy from the guests began filling her heart with a new kind of gratitude. It wasn't about the pie or the flowers in the arrangement, but rather the togetherness that thrived in the chaos. Julie and Lisa peeked in, concern etched on their faces. "Need any help?" Lisa asked, a hint of laughter creeping in as she surveyed the flower explosion. "Nope. We got this," Max announced, proudly raising his tiny hands, dusted in white. The tension around the situation softened, with Lisa and Julie sharing smiles. Ella scooped flour into the mixing bowl, giggling as it fluffed in the air. It was as if the moment had become intensely focused on their little circle, a small world where mistakes could be forgotten. Sarah felt an inexplicable bond, carved out of love and resilience, form between her and her kids. In that fleeting moment, she glanced over to see Eric hovering nearby. He had moved closer, a tentative spectator to this scene of familial unity. For a heartbeat, their eyes connected, and something stirred between them, a mixture of understanding and unresolved tension. She sensed his hesitation. Would he join them, or remain outside this small bubble they were creating? Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the living room, pulling her back. Someone had made a toast. To family. Someone proclaimed, each voice echoing together, lifting her spirit once again. She turned her focus back to Ella and Max, allowing herself the chance for a small laugh amidst the craziness. Okay, what do we need next? They continued with the pie-making, laughter punctuating the process as they sang songs and danced around, the finest chaos she had ever experienced. She didn't need the perfectly baked pie. Instead, she found joy in the burr of her children's laughter, a rhythm joining the crowd's harmonies of shared stories and warm connections. As they slid the new pie into the oven, Sarah felt the shadows of her past flicker, minimized by these moments of light. But a thought nagged at her. What if Eric wanted to be part of this transformation? The question lingered as she wiped her hands on a towel, glancing back to him once more. He stood there, watching them, an unknown silhouette dancing at the edge of her new beginning. Would this holiday be the turning point, the invitation for Eric to step forward and reclaim his role? Or was it simply a beautiful mess, reflective of their uncertain future? As the smell of the pie began to waft from the oven, the warmth enveloped Sarah like a comforting hug. Laughter continued to echo from the living room, the clinking of glasses and cheerful chatter amplifying the festive spirit. She found herself momentarily lost in that sound, a stark contrast to the chaotic disappointment just moments before. Can we decorate it? Ella asked, scrunching her little nose in excitement, flour still dusting her cheeks like a playful ghost. Of course. We'll make it beautiful. Sarah replied with enthusiasm, her heart swelling with pride. She felt a flutter of happiness. This moment, messy as it was, defined everything she truly cherished. As they pulled out sprinkles, whipped cream, and berries, Max chimed in, I want to make a dinosaur on my side. His face lit up with determination. It was contagious. Let us do it. Sarah laughed, you can help me with the swirl. The next few minutes flew by in a whirl of colored sugar and whipped peaks. When they finished, Sarah stepped back, surveying their creation. The pie was a childlike masterpiece of vibrant toppings and swirled patterns. It was utterly imperfect, yet profoundly beautiful, a statement of love rather than culinary precision. Ella clapped her hands, head bobbing with excitement. It looks like a rainbow. Just then, Eric stepped into the kitchen, breaking her moment of bliss. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. His hands were tucked into his pockets, and a hint of a smile danced on his lips as he observed the scene. Wow! That's one colorful pie, he remarked, his tone light yet sincere. Want to help us with the last touch? She found herself asking, almost without thinking. Eric hesitated for a moment, but then stepped closer. What's the last touch? I've got an idea. He reached for a small container of chocolate chips sitting on the counter. Ella's eyes grew wide with anticipation. Yes. She squeaked. Together, they started sprinkling chocolate chips, laughter bubbling up as droplets of melted chocolate threatened to start a new mess. Sarah watched Eric engage with their children, his playful demeanor melting barriers she hadn't realized were still in place. It was as if they were building a bridge slowly, but surely. Feeling bold, she said, you know, it's moments like this that I'm really thankful for. Eric looked up, his expression softening. Yeah, me too, he replied, the weight of sincerity behind his words. The oven timer chimed, and they jumped slightly. Ella giggled, momentarily startled. I'll get it. No, wait, Sarah said, stepping in front of Ella protectively. Let me. She opened the oven slowly, the heat brushing against her face like a warm breath. The pie had transformed crisp on top and golden brown, no longer a crumpled promise but a symbol of resilience. Look at it. Max shouted, bouncing on his toes. It's perfect. Only because you two helped. Sarah smiled, her heart full. But just as she reveled in that joy, a second thought fluttered through her mind. Could this change be lasting? Would they all find a way to fit back into that long-ago portrait of family? As they placed the pie on the counter, the doorbell rang. They all turned to exchange glances, uncertainty creeping back in. Would it be guests arriving, or was it something that would put their little world into chaos again? Are you going to get it? Ella asked, pulling at her mother's sleeve, eyes bright with curiosity. Sarah took a step towards the door, her heart racing. What would be waiting on the other side? Taking a deep breath, Sarah steadied her nerves and approached the door. The festive atmosphere shifted slightly, anticipation crackling in the air. As she reached for the doorknob, a mix of hope and dread swirled inside her. Opening the door revealed a tall figure, wrapped in a worn jacket with leaves caught in their hair. It was Grandma Lucy, standing there with her characteristic warm smile, but it carried an edge of urgency. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, a hint of mischief lurking beneath. Surprise! Grandma exclaimed, arms wide open as she swept Sarah into a tight embrace. The familiar scent of lavender and old books wrapped around her, easing some of the tension. I couldn't miss this Thanksgiving with you all. Grandma. How did you get here? Sarah stepped aside, allowing her grandmother to enter. The warmth of her presence filled the small space, a balm for Sarah's simmering emotions. I took the train this morning. I wouldn't miss seeing my grandkids, especially with that pie in the oven. Grandma's eyes sparkled at the sight of Ella and Max, who rushed over, eyes wide with joy. Ella's reaction was instant. Grandma. Look at our pie. We made it super fun. Max chattered on about dinosaurs made of whipped cream and chocolate. Sarah couldn't help but smile, this was her family gathered together, and even Eric began to nudge close. She felt a flicker of hope, maybe this year would be different. With the gathering momentum, Grandma plopped down on a chair and nestled in with a sly grin. What do you say we turn this party up a notch? You've got everything we need for a Thanksgiving feast right here, don't you? Oh, I don't know, Sarah started, feeling overwhelmed, especially with the pie still cooling on the counter. But as she looked at Ella and Max, their eager faces brimming with enthusiasm, she softened. Sure. Let us do it. Sarah heard herself say with unexpected resolve. Within moments, the kitchen was filled with cheerful chaos as Grandma rummaged through her bag, pulling out an array of ingredients, each one a memory wrapped in laughter. Who wants to help me with the stuffing? She called out, and it was as if magic created a spark. The children bounced before following her to the counter. Looking over at Eric, Sarah felt her heart race again. He was watching them, a broad smile playing across his features. In that moment, she realized something had shifted. By inviting Grandma into their Thanksgiving, perhaps they were weaving back together the threads of their family. While stirring a massive bowl of stuffing, Grandma shared stories, some hilarious, others heartfelt. Eric occasionally tossed in a comment, his laughter mingling with the sounds around them. Sarah's heart swelled. This was what she had longed for, a sense of togetherness, but as they prepared, a whisper of doubt lingered in the back of Sarah's mind. Was this just a fleeting moment? A mere distraction from the deeper issues that had divided them? Just as she was about to voice her concerns, Grandma glanced over, intuition lighting her gaze. Do you feel that, Sarah? It's the warmth of family, like our Thanksgiving meals used to be. Sometimes, change happens in waves. As fresh hope washed over her again, the doorbell rang once more, interrupting their newfound warmth. Everyone paused, glancing at one another. The tension recoiled slightly. Another guest? Eric asked, the smile faltering, as uncertainty crept back in. Who could it be? Max wondered out loud, eyes dancing with curiosity. Sarah felt her stomach drop. Whatever was waiting outside had the potential to change everything again. Should I get it? She asked, voice steady but breath catching in her throat. What if this time, the change was not what they hoped for? Swallowing her apprehension, Sarah made her way to the door. Each step felt heavier, laden with the weight of unknown possibilities. She glanced back at Grandma, Ella, and Max, who were now engrossed in lively chatter over stuffing tips. Eric lingered close, worry etched across his brow. They awaited her cue, and for a moment, the world outside felt vast and intimidating. Taking one last breath, she opened the door. Standing before her was someone she hadn't anticipated. It was her estranged brother, Jacob, his wild curls tousled by the wind, an awkward smile on his face. "Hey, Sarah," he said, his voice a mix of unease and hope. 1,000 emotions collided within Sarah. Shock coursed through her, followed closely by a rush of memories that were both beautiful and painful. "Jacob?" Words caught in her throat. "I know I'm not supposed to be here," he continued, eyes darting cautiously between her and the chaos inside the house. "But when I heard Grandma was coming, I thought maybe I could too." She hesitated, torn between the warmth of family she'd just begun to rediscover and the turmoil Jacob had brought into her life. "I don't know if this is the best time, please," he interrupted, sincerity washing over his features. "I need to fix us. Can I at least come in?" Sarah's heart raced, conflicting feelings spiraling through her. The door felt like a threshold, a divide between the joyful family warmth and the unresolved tensions that sat heavy in her chest. The silence between them stretched long. She could feel Jacob's longing, a silent plea for another chance. Behind her, laughter danced through the air, and she closed her eyes momentarily, desperate for clarity. Could this family gathering turn into a chaotic mix once more, or was there a possibility for healing? "Sarah?" Jacob's voice broke through her thoughts, filled with uncertainty. "I promised to make it up to you, to show you I've changed." Taking a deep breath, she stepped back, opening the door wider. "Come in," she finally whispered, heart pounding. Inside, the atmosphere shifted. Max and Ella were oblivious, but Grandma turned, her expression morphing from joy to surprise. "Jacob, you made it." She clapped her hands, joy mingling with the air of uncertainty. "Hey, Grandma," Jacob replied, a hint of awkwardness sneaking into his tone. Sarah remained at the threshold, watching. Suddenly the kitchen felt smaller, the air heavier. What was meant to be a warm family gathering now carried the weight of unresolved issues and long-buried emotions. Struggling to find her footing, she forced herself to step further inside, joining the circle of faces lit with laughter. "Is everyone ready for the surprise dish Jacob brought?" Grandma chirped, trying to ease the tension, but it didn't work. Sarah felt her stomach flip at the thought of an unexpected dish from Jacob, a wild card that could either heal or disrupt everything. As the conversation mingled with the scent of savory stuffing, Sarah's mind raced. Could they truly navigate this holiday without plunging headfirst into old wounds? The air thickened with anticipation as Jacob leaned forward to talk with the kids, his nervousness fading slightly amid their innocent joy. Laughter erupted again, but it felt different this time, bittersweet. Just as Sarah deemed it feasible to get through the day, a memory surfaced unbidden, the last Thanksgiving they had spent together before everything changed. That year had been filled with warmth and laughter, but it was also the one where Jacob made a choice that fractured their lives. How will this end? She thought, glancing from Jacob to Eric and then to her children, who remained blissfully unaware. It was a rickety bridge fraught with uncertainty. Was this Thanksgiving going to be a fresh start, or would it crumble into chaos? A sudden clang from the kitchen whipped her back to the moment. It was the pie. Ella had accidentally knocked it over in her enthusiasm. The laughter echoed again, but Sarah felt the weight of her choices pressing down. "Time to see if we can save it," Grandma exclaimed, leading the children to salvage the remnants of the pie, and Sarah couldn't help but think, was fixing what was broken truly possible? Her heart raced as she turned to Jacob, his eyes meeting hers. He seemed to sense her turmoil, and a quiet understanding passed between them. "Maybe we can fix us too," he said softly, a cautious optimism rising in his voice. With the door to their shared past ajar, a sense of urgency built in the air. As the pie was salvaged and laughter rang out, Sarah held her breath. Change and healing lingered just beyond reach. And deep inside, she wondered, could they rebuild what had been lost, or would this become yet another Thanksgiving to remember for all the wrong reasons? The chaos in the kitchen thickened as Grandma and the kids rallied to save the pie. Ella giggled, dabbing raspberry filling from her hands, while Max tried to remind her of the last time something similar had happened, an incident that had almost turned into a food fight. Their laughter wrapped around Sarah like a warm blanket, but it couldn't entirely dispel the glimmer of tension in her chest. Watching Jacob interact with her children stirred a whirlwind of emotions. He seemed lighter, his past burdens momentarily washed away by the joy of the moment. Yet, as she caught snippets of their conversation, a hint of playfulness, a shared joke, dark memories clawed at the edges of Sarah's mind. What if this was fleeting? The thought of being caught off guard by Jacob's charm once again, only to be hurt, gnawed at her. She shook her head, trying to clear it. Focus on the now, she urged herself. This was not just about her but her children too. Hey, Sarah. Eric's voice broke through. She turned to see him holding a plate of stuffing. What do you think? Did I nail it? Looks amazing, she replied, giving a weak smile. The kitchen was filled with aromas, but all she could see was Jacob. His presence was like a hurricane, swirling everything she thought she had built so carefully. Meanwhile, Jacob approached her with a tentative grin, tentative like a kitten testing the water. Can we talk? He asked, lowering his voice so it was just for her. Now? She questioned, heart racing again. Another wave of uncertainty threatened to sweep over her. Please, he implored. If not now, then when? I need you to understand that I'm not the same person I was. She wanted to believe him, really, but trust was a tricky thing. It was the same trust that had crumbled all those years ago when he walked away from their family, chasing something that had led to pain for them all. Let us step outside, she suggested, glancing around the busy kitchen filled with laughter and chatter. It would be easier to talk without the noise, the expectations, without the weight of their family's gathered hopes resting on their shoulders. They moved to the porch, where they stood side by side, the crisp air wrapping around them. The sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a beautiful backdrop to the storm brewing inside her. What do you want me to hear, Jacob? She asked, keeping her tone steady. He turned to face her, the playfulness replaced by earnestness. I want to apologize. I've spent so long running away from my mistakes that I missed the chance to set things right. Sarah sighed, pulling her arms around herself as if that could shield her from the memories of betrayal. You showed up today. But what guarantee do I have that you won't disappear again? That we won't fall apart again? His expression hardened briefly, then softened under her gaze. I can't promise that it won't be hard, but I can promise to try, Jacob said, his voice trembling slightly. I want to rebuild. If you can give me that chance, I'll prove to you that I'm here to stay. Her heart skipped. Could she take that leap? Another chance? The fear of trusting him again loomed large, but so did the longing for unity, for familial love that had been so cruelly stripped away. Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the kitchen, breaking their moment. The kids had salvaged enough of the pie to declare victory, and laughter flooded out onto the porch, spilling into the corners of her uncertainty. Sarah couldn't help but smile at their innocent joy. It made her question everything again. Could this really be a moment of healing? Could Jacob be the brother she once knew, or was the brother she wanted to know enough? As she gazed back at the lively scene, a flicker of hope blossomed in her heart. But worry nagged at her. Could they ever really heal the wounds of the past? And just when the moment felt balanced, Jacob took a breath, leaned closer, and whispered, I understand if you're scared, but there is something I need to tell you. Her breath caught in her throat, heart pounding. What more was there? What truth could change everything? Jacob's gaze was steady, locked onto hers, the weight of unspoken words filling the space between them. I've been working hard to turn my life around. I didn't want to come here without showing you that I've changed. His voice quivered with sincerity, and the truth behind his confession pierced through Sarah's defenses. What do you mean? She barely whispered, curiosity mingling with caution. I went to rehab, and I've been clean for several months. I wanted to come home a better person, someone you could trust, he confessed, vulnerability radiating from him like sunlight breaking through a stormy sky. Tears stung Sarah's eyes. She had longed for a change, but could she believe him? The laughter and joy from the kitchen drifted outside, carrying with it echoes of hope and warmth. For a moment, Sarah was swept into those memories of dinners filled with laughter and of Jacob, not as he had become, but the boy she grew up with. Is this real? She finally asked, a touch of desperation creeping into her voice. Can you really prove it? I'm here, aren't I? Jacob replied, his voice firm yet gentle. I want to be here for you and the kids. I don't expect instant forgiveness, but I promise you one thing, I'm committed to facing my past. Facing is one thing. Changing is another, Sarah shot back, her heart conflicted. What if you fail again? A silence hung in the air, raw and heavy. Jacob took a breath, his eyes reflecting an unwavering truth. Then I'm willing to welcome your disappointment. I wouldn't blame you if you decided never to speak to me again. Tears appeared, unbidden, spilling over Sarah's cheeks as the emotional burden she had carried began to lift just a little. She felt a sense of power in his admission. Was this the weight of real sincerity? Just then, Ella burst through the porch door, her small face alight with excitement. Mom! Look! We made half a pie, and Grandma says it's a miracle. Her innocent joy drew Sarah back into the moment. It was the chance for joy over sorrow that's what she wanted to pass on to her children. See? Jacob said softly, as Ella babbled about the pie and its fantastic toppings. I want that kind of laughter and joy with my family again. I want to be part of their lives like I should have always been. The sounds of celebration drifted from the kitchen, and she could sense it, the anticipation, the warmth of family connections stitching together what had once been frayed. Maybe Jacob could learn how to fit back, and maybe they could find a way to build something new and lasting. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped towards the doorway, inviting the warmth of laughter. Let us go be part of that miracle, she said, glancing back at him, determination reflected in her eyes. As they entered the kitchen, the laughter enveloped them, warmth radiating everywhere. Ella waved her tiny hands, Grandma. Look, I can help with the stuffing. Jacob watched, a gentle smile creeping over his face as he took in the sight of his little niece and nephew, innocent and joyful, unaware of the deeper dynamics swirling around them. Can I help too? He asked, lifting a bowl of stuffing, a spark of hope igniting within him. Yes. Come on. Ella called, dragging him into the bustling kitchen, where laughter mingled with chaos. Sarah stood back for a second, watching as Jacob engaged playfully with her kids, building a bridge through shared moments of laughter and warmth. The past began to fade, and for the first time, a sense of lightness filled her heart. Then, just as things began to settle into a joyful rhythm, the doorbell rang again. This time, a rush of excitement bubbled in her chest. Another surprise? Grandma teased, and laughter erupted again. Sarah turned her gaze to Jacob, who shrugged playfully. You think you can take more family? With this kind of pizza pie? Absolutely. She teased back, and together they opened the door to reveal even more friends arriving with dishes and smiles. The home blended that day with family, laughter, and the promise of new ties forged from the remnants of the past. As the embrace of gratitude wrapped around her, Sarah realized this Thanksgiving wouldn't only transform her, it was weaving something even more powerful, a tapestry of unity, hope, and possibility. She raised her glass with everyone else, overwhelming joy swelling in her heart as they toasted. to new beginnings, and every miracle that brought us here. As cheers filled the air, Sarah knew this Thanksgiving had become something she'd cherish forever, a symbol of healing, laughter, and love, where everyone had a place to belong. This is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the story. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.